Lyra, the alien queen of Zithera, sat on her high throne, her eyes scanning the vast court that shimmered with colors no human had ever seen. The walls reflected a spectrum of lights, a display of her empire's wealth and power. She was used to being surrounded by beings far stronger, faster, and more intelligent than humans. That was why Marcus Hale had seemed so ordinary to her at first. Marcus, her husband, the human she had married not long ago, walked quietly among the courtiers. He moved with careful attention, never drawing attention to himself but always observing. To any alien eye he appeared simple, perhaps even insignificant. His brown hair fell slightly over his forehead, his green eyes calm but watchful. He wore the modest clothing of a human diplomat, nothing like the bright and elaborate robes of the alien nobles. Lyra had married him for reasons her advisors would never fully understand. It was not for politics, nor for strength, nor for power. It was because, in the short time she had spent with him, she had seen something in him that no alien had ever shown her: understanding. Humans could empathize, adapt, and think in ways her people could not. But even she, a queen who had faced the most cunning generals in the galaxy, did not yet fully realize the depth of his abilities. The court whispered constantly about him. Some nobles smiled politely at Marcus. Others, more openly, questioned the wisdom of Lyra's choice. "A human?" one muttered. "He cannot even survive in our climate for more than a few days. Yet she expects him to understand us." Marcus ignored them as he always did. He greeted the elders politely, bowed with respect, and answered questions with careful thought. He was learning their language, their gestures, their etiquette, and doing so with patience. He listened more than he spoke, observing everything. Lyra watched him with quiet pride. He did not rush to prove himself. He did not try to show strength or skill. He simply was. In the weeks they had been together, she had seen him quietly solve disputes among the staff, mediate arguments, and even teach a young alien scholar how to combine human logic with alien knowledge. Yet, in her heart she could not help feeling some worry. Humanity, while capable of many things, was fragile in ways aliens were not. Humans could not survive long without shelter in Zithera's thin air. They could not endure as long as the alien nobles who lived hundreds of years. Would Marcus survive here when danger came? Lyra had no answer, and part of her feared that she had married someone who could not protect himself, or her, when the time came. The first signs of trouble came quietly. Reports from the borders of the Empire spoke of strange movements. A rogue faction of aliens, long thought pacified, was gathering ships, weapons, and armies. Their leaders were ruthless, aiming not just to rebel but to seize control of Zithera itself. Lyra received these reports in the private chamber of her advisors. "This is serious," her chief strategist said, his 6 eyes narrowing. "They have planned this for years. We must respond immediately." Lyra considered him, then shook her head. "Not yet. We must be sure of our intelligence. I will not act rashly." The human beside her, Marcus, had been quietly studying star maps and reports from distant colonies. He had spent hours observing the factions' previous movements, their strategies, and their weaknesses. When Lyra looked at him now, she saw a furrow in his brow. "There is something you are not telling me, Marcus," she said. Marcus shook his head politely. "No, my queen. I only observe. I try to understand. Humans often succeed by seeing what others overlook." Lyra smiled faintly, though she did not fully understand what he meant. Humans were curious, clever, and capable of surprises, yes, but she had not yet seen Marcus in the kind of situation that demanded action, danger, and courage. For the next days, life at court returned to its usual rhythm. Marcus continued his quiet routine, observing, learning, speaking when necessary, helping where he could. Lyra found herself drawn to him, not only as her husband but as a student of humanity. He asked questions that no alien had thought to ask, questions about motivation, ethics, and strategy. His curiosity reminded her of a time when she herself had been young, idealistic, and fearless. The palace staff began to admire him quietly. The humans who served Marcus's house began calling him a true leader, though he never claimed that title. Even the skeptical alien nobles could not ignore the subtle ways in which Marcus improved efficiency, reduced conflicts, and solved problems that had puzzled the court for decades. He was modest, but he was also quietly extraordinary. Then the attack came. It was sudden. A fleet of ships appeared near the outer atmosphere of Zithera, far beyond what the palace sensors had predicted. Lyra was in her chambers when the alarm sounded. The golden halls of the palace shook as ships moved into attack formation. Courtiers screamed and guards rushed to their posts. Lyra's first instinct was to protect her people. She reached for her communicator to command the defense forces. But before she could speak, Marcus was already moving. He did not panic. He did not hesitate. He ran to the command chamber with precise speed, guiding the confused staff, taking control of the situation with calm authority. Lyra followed him, her heart racing. She had seen him act decisively before in small matters, but this was different. Lives were at stake, and Marcus's every movement revealed confidence, strategy, and skill. He quickly assessed the palace's vulnerabilities, organized defensive units, and even suggested tactics that combined human improvisation with alien technology. The staff and guards were amazed. Marcus was not just keeping up with the crisis, he was leading. Lyra watched as he coordinated the palace's energy shields, deployed defensive drones, and rerouted power to critical systems. He moved like a general born for battle, calm, methodical, and fearless. Her heart swelled with a mixture of pride and disbelief. The modest man she had married, the one who seemed so ordinary, was now the center of her empire's defense. The rogue faction's first strike came in the form of fast, small attack ships attempting to penetrate the palace perimeter. Marcus anticipated their moves, issuing orders that no alien commander could have thought of. The drones intercepted the intruders and the shields absorbed the energy blasts. The human ingenuity in his tactics turned what could have been chaos into organized defense. Lyra realized something profound. Humans, with their limited lifespans and physical fragility, developed ways to think differently. They improvised. They adapted. They looked at problems from angles that aliens, confident in their own superiority, never considered. Marcus embodied all these qualities and more. In the midst of the chaos, Lyra found herself beside him, observing him closely. The fear she had felt for his survival vanished. Instead, she felt awe. The modest man she thought she knew was a warrior in disguise, a leader and a protector of her people. Hours passed like minutes. Marcus directed the defense, coordinated counterattacks, and even personally led a small squad to secure a vulnerable palace corridor. He moved with precision, protecting civilians and officers alike, showing courage that seemed impossible for a human. By the time the first wave of the rogue faction retreated, the palace remained intact. The court, the staff, and the citizens of Zithera were safe. Lyra stood at the balcony of her throne room, watching Marcus as he debriefed the guards and staff. His calm demeanor and quiet instructions inspired confidence in everyone around him. For the first time, Lyra truly understood the human spirit. Humans might appear modest, fragile, and ordinary, but when the moment came, they could be extraordinary. Marcus was living proof. She approached him quietly as the palace began to recover from the attack. "Marcus," she said, her voice steady but filled with emotion, "I underestimated you." Marcus looked at her and smiled gently. "I only did what anyone should do, my queen," he replied. But Lyra saw the truth in his eyes. He had done far more than anyone, alien or human, could have imagined. Lyra felt a shift within herself. The human she had married, the one she thought would struggle in the shadows of her empire, had revealed the strength, courage, and brilliance that aliens could not comprehend. And she realized that this was only the beginning. The galaxy was full of challenges, but with Marcus at her side, she knew they could face anything. That night, as the stars shimmered over Zithera, Lyra sat beside Marcus in the quiet of their private chamber. The palace had survived, her people were safe, and the rogue faction had been repelled. Yet she knew that the human beside her had more to show. He was not only her husband, but a force the universe would soon recognize. For the first time, Lyra saw humanity not as fragile, but as extraordinary. And she could not wait to see what Marcus would do next. The modest man she thought she knew had revealed his true self, and the alien queen of Zithera would never see humans the same way again. The night over Zithera was calm, but the palace remained on high alert. The rogue faction's first strike had failed, but Marcus knew it was only the beginning. He stood in the command chamber, staring at the holographic map of the enemy fleet. Lyra was beside him, her usual calm composure replaced with alertness. She had witnessed his skill in action, but she also understood that the true test had only begun. "Do you think they will return?" Lyra asked quietly. "They will," Marcus replied, his eyes scanning the map. "They will try to regroup. Their first attack failed because they underestimated the palace defenses. Their next strike will be more precise, more aggressive. We need to be ready," Lyra nodded. She had always trusted his judgment, but this time it went beyond trust. It was awe. The human she had married had shown her that appearances could be deceiving. He was modest in demeanor but brilliant in action. She realized that the greatest power of humans was not in strength or speed, but in their ability to adapt, to think in ways others could not. Marcus turned to the staff. "We need to anticipate their moves. They will likely attempt a multi-pronged attack. I want our energy shields reinforced at all perimeter points. Drones must patrol continuously, and I want a diversionary fleet ready to mislead them." His words were calm, measured, yet carried the authority of a seasoned commander. The alien officers, who had once doubted him, now followed his orders without question. Marcus had earned their respect not by boasting or showing force, but through clarity, foresight, and an understanding of both human and alien tactics. Hours passed as the palace prepared. Marcus moved among the guards, checking positions, giving instructions, and answering questions. Lyra observed him closely. She saw him reassure a young officer who had lost a family member in the first attack. She saw him quietly adjust a defensive mechanism that the alien engineers had miscalculated. Every action reflected intelligence, empathy, and leadership. As the first light of Zithra's twin suns began to glow over the horizon, the enemy fleet appeared again, larger and more organized than before. Marcus had anticipated their strategy. He activated the palace defenses in a carefully timed sequence, creating traps and diversions. The alien nobles watched in astonishment as his human ingenuity transformed the palace into an almost impenetrable fortress. The rogue faction launched their main assault. Energy blasts lit up the sky, and ships darted in coordinated strikes. Yet Marcus's preparations held. Drones intercepted the attackers, energy shields absorbed the brunt of the damage, and the diversionary fleet lured part of the enemy into a trap that Marcus had planned hours before. Lyra could not tear her eyes away from him. He was everywhere at once, directing, calculating, leading. Even when danger came close, he remained calm. At one point, a squad of enemy infiltrators breached an outer corridor. Marcus personally led a small team to intercept them. He moved with precision, coordinating human and alien soldiers seamlessly. The intruders were neutralized without casualties thanks to his strategy. The palace halls echoed with the sounds of battle, but Marcus's presence brought order amidst chaos. He moved with a rhythm that was almost natural, as if he could predict the enemy's actions before they happened. Lyra felt a mixture of fear, admiration, and disbelief. The modest man she had married was not only protecting her and her people, he was proving that humanity possessed qualities even the most advanced alien societies could not fully understand. Hours stretched into a full day. The rogue faction, realizing their attack had failed, began to retreat. Marcus did not allow them to escape entirely. He coordinated a final strike that forced the enemy to surrender or flee into deep space, ensuring they could not regroup immediately. The palace was intact, the citizens safe, and the rogue faction decisively repelled. Lyra turned to Marcus, her eyes shining with pride and a new understanding. "I see now," she said softly. "You are not merely a human. You are extraordinary." Marcus smiled gently. "I only did what anyone should do, my queen. Protect what is important and adapt when necessary. That is what humans learn from experience." Lyra reached for his hand, holding it firmly. "No, Marcus. You did far more than that. You saved lives, preserved my empire, and showed me what humans are truly capable of. I thought I knew humans, but now I see that your strength lies not in your body, but in your mind, your courage, and your heart." The alien nobles, who had once whispered about Marcus's weakness, now approached with respect. They bowed, offering their loyalty and gratitude. Some even admitted they had underestimated humans entirely. Marcus received their acknowledgement with quiet humility, never boasting but clearly aware of his influence. In the days following the attack, the palace began recovery efforts. Marcus continued to play a central role, organizing rebuilding projects, ensuring security improvements, and even negotiating peaceful terms with minor factions who had been influenced by the rogue group. His human perspective allowed him to see solutions that the alien advisors had missed, combining diplomacy, strategy, and empathy in ways that strengthened the Empire. Lyra spent time with him in the quieter moments, observing how he interacted with ordinary citizens, soldiers, and staff. He listened more than he spoke, learning, teaching, and inspiring trust. It became clear to her that humans had an extraordinary ability to unite, to improvise, and to lead under pressure. Marcus's modesty had hidden these talents, but now they were undeniable. One evening, as the twin suns set over Zythera, casting long shadows across the palace, Lyra stood beside Marcus on the balcony. The city below was alive with rebuilding efforts, its citizens grateful and safe. She looked at him and realized that this human, so modest in appearance, had changed her understanding of power, leadership, and courage. "Marcus," she said softly, "I want to learn from you, not just as a queen, but as someone who has seen the strength of your people. Teach me what it means to think like a human." Marcus turned to her, his expression calm but thoughtful. "I can only share what I know, my queen. Humans survive by observing, by thinking differently, by acting when others hesitate. That is our strength. But I believe you have seen it already." Lyra smiled, feeling a deep respect for the human beside her. She realized that the galaxy was full of challenges, but with Marcus at her side, she was ready to face them all. Humans were not merely fragile or ordinary. They were extraordinary in ways that even her advanced species could not fully grasp. And Marcus had shown her that even one human could change the fate of an empire. The palace had survived the attack, but more importantly, Lyra had survived her own misconceptions about humans. She had thought Marcus was modest, ordinary, perhaps even limited. Now she knew that his quiet demeanor was only a mask for ingenuity, courage, and a unique kind of wisdom. As they watched the city below, Marcus spoke quietly. "The universe is unpredictable, my queen. Strength comes not only from power, but from adaptability and understanding. That is why humans endure." Lyra nodded, feeling the truth of his words deep in her heart. "Then we will endure together," she said. "And perhaps with your guidance my empire will become stronger than ever before." Marcus smiled, but there was a seriousness in his gaze. "We will face challenges, Queen Lyra. Many will doubt humans, many will underestimate them. But if we act with courage, intelligence, and heart, nothing will be impossible." The stars above Zythera shone brightly, reflecting the promise of a future shaped not just by alien power, but by human ingenuity and bravery. Lyra knew that the galaxy had underestimated humans for too long, and she vowed never to do so again. Marcus had proven that even a modest man could become a hero, a leader, and a force that could protect an empire. In the quiet that followed the chaos, Lyra and Marcus stood together, not as queen and husband alone, but as partners united by trust, respect, and a shared understanding of what it truly meant to face the universe. The modest human had revealed his true self, and the alien queen of Zythera knew that with him by her side the empire would thrive, and the galaxy would never again underestimate the power of humanity. And somewhere, in the vastness of space, other alien civilizations would soon come to learn the same lesson, that humans, though seemingly ordinary, could be extraordinary when the moment demanded it. Lyra looked at Marcus one last time as the night deepened. He was still modest, still unassuming in appearance, yet she knew that he carried within him the strength, courage, and brilliance that could shape the future. She had married a human who was more than she had ever imagined, and she would never forget the day she truly saw him in action. The galaxy had changed forever, and humanity's quiet power had been revealed.